Marriage as a path to awakening, breaking the karmic cycle through love and forgiveness. Karma and marriage, the spiritual force behind our relationships. In today's world, marriage is often seen as a beautiful union between two people, driven by love, mutual respect, and shared values. But what if I told you that marriage, like everything in life, is not just a random event? What if it's influenced by forces beyond our control, forces that are connected to our past actions, unresolved karma, and spiritual debts? This is the essence of karmic relationships, which, according to Buddhist philosophy, are not only about love or attraction, but about lessons that must be learned and spiritual growth that must unfold. At first glance, it might seem that we marry someone simply because we feel love and connection. We are drawn to them, and they make us feel complete. But as we dive deeper into the Buddhist perspective on karma, we begin to understand that the people we marry may have been part of our spiritual journey long before we even met them. They are not merely random, they are part of a larger plan designed by our past actions, karmic cycles, and unfinished lessons. Understanding karma in the context of marriage. In Buddhist teachings, karma refers to the law of cause and effect. Every action, thought, and decision leaves a mark on our lives, creating consequences that echo throughout our existence. This means that not only our current actions but also our past actions across previous lifetimes have shaped our present reality. Karma is often misunderstood in the West as simply good or bad actions that result in rewards or punishments. However, in Buddhism, karma is not a system of judgment or retribution. Rather, it is a system of learning. Our karmic actions, whether positive or negative, create patterns that we must face and work through in our current life. When it comes to marriage, the law of karma dictates that the person you marry may be someone with whom you have unresolved business. This business could manifest as a past debt, a lesson that needs to be learned, or even a pattern that needs to be broken. In this sense, the union between two people is not a random accident. It is karmically orchestrated, with each person playing a role in the other's spiritual journey. Karmic bonds, more than love. At the heart of karmic marriages is the idea that love is not the only reason we come together. Yes, love plays a role, but there are deeper, often unseen, forces at work. Karmic relationships may stem from unfinished emotional or spiritual work from previous lifetimes, or from unresolved patterns from the past that need to be healed in the present. I once heard a story from a Buddhist teacher that really put this idea into perspective. There was a couple who seemed to have everything in common. They were well matched in their interests, passions, and even their life goals. From the outside, their marriage seemed like a perfect match. Yet, as time went on, they found themselves constantly in conflict. No matter how much they tried to understand each other, there was always a sense of disconnection, a feeling that something was missing. In their case, the teacher explained, their marriage wasn't about two people finding completion in each other. Instead, it was about both individuals facing unresolved emotional patterns from their past. They were drawn to each other not because of mutual fulfillment but because they had unfinished business, unresolved emotions and lessons from a past life that had yet to be addressed. This story brings us to an important realization. In karmic marriages, we are often not just marrying a person but a set of unresolved experiences, wounds, and lessons. These unresolved patterns may not be consciously understood by either partner, but they are there, influencing the relationship. The challenge is not to ignore them, but to confront them and grow from them. The unseen forces of karma in relationships. To better understand how karma influences our marriages, we need to look at the ways in which we are drawn to people. Sometimes, the connection we feel with someone can feel inexplicably strong, as if we've known them forever. In these moments, we may believe that it is love at first sight. However, in the Buddhist view, what we are actually experiencing is recognition of a soul with whom we have shared past lives, past actions, or unresolved emotional experiences. A fascinating example of this came from a woman who shared her story during a Dharma talk. She explained that from the moment she met her partner, she felt an overwhelming sense of familiarity, as though their connection had always existed. However, over time, the relationship became tumultuous, and she was left feeling confused and heartbroken. When she sought guidance from a teacher, the teacher explained that what she felt was not just love but a recognition of a soul that had shared past experiences with her. The intense connection was not based on the beauty or charm of the partner in this life but on the unresolved karma from past lifetimes. This is an important distinction. While love is often thought to be the foundation of a relationship, in karmic unions, love can be a secondary force. The primary force at play is the need for resolution and healing. Karmic relationships are not meant to be smooth sailing. They are intended to be a spiritual playground where we confront our past, heal our wounds, and evolve as individuals. Personal growth through karmic relationships. Now, you may be wondering, if karmic relationships are so difficult, is it possible to find peace in them? The answer is yes, but only through conscious awareness and personal growth. To break free from the repetitive cycles of suffering and emotional turmoil, both partners must be willing to face their past and work through their karma. There is a story of a man who sought guidance from a Zen master because he was constantly fighting with his wife, despite their deep love for each other. The master listened patiently to his concerns before offering this advice: "You met in love, but you met too early. You are not ready to understand each other fully. She is still becoming who she is meant to be, and you are still shedding the person who cannot accept her." This powerful teaching reveals an essential truth: timing and readiness are crucial in any relationship. We may be drawn to a person because they reflect a deep soul connection, but if we are not ready to fully face ourselves and grow, the relationship will inevitably lead to conflict and dissatisfaction. A karmic marriage, then, is not a simple union of two people. It is a union that requires both individuals to grow together, to evolve, and to confront their shadows. Breaking free from karmic cycles. It's also important to recognize that karmic relationships do not last forever. Some marriages, even though deeply transformative, may only exist to help both partners break free from past cycles and grow spiritually. There is a deep wisdom in knowing when it's time to let go. In Buddhist thought, attachment is often seen as the root of suffering. If we hold on to a relationship out of fear, guilt, or the desire to avoid pain, we prevent ourselves from fully experiencing the freedom that comes with letting go. I remember reading the story of a woman who stayed in a marriage for many years, even though she felt emotionally drained and disconnected. She believed that her loyalty was noble and that her commitment to the relationship was a virtue. However, When she sought counsel from a Buddhist teacher, the teacher explained that her attachment to the relationship was the source of her suffering, not her devotion. He taught her that true love comes not from clinging to a person but from the ability to let go when the time has come. In some karmic marriages, this is the ultimate lesson, that the purpose of the union is not to stay together forever, but to learn the lesson, evolve, and set each other free when the time is right. This is not a failure, it is an essential part of the spiritual journey. The final lesson, awakening and liberation. Ultimately, the goal of any karmic relationship is spiritual awakening. The purpose of marriage is not to complete each other but to help each other grow and become the best versions of yourselves. This means that even when a marriage ends, it is not a failure, it is the completion of a lesson, and both individuals are free to continue their journey of spiritual evolution. The Buddhist teachings remind us that everything in life is impermanent, including relationships. When we approach marriage through the lens of karma, we understand that the union is not an end in itself but a vehicle for awakening. Whether the marriage lasts a lifetime or only a short time, its true value lies in the lessons we learn and the growth we experience. In conclusion, marriage is not a random event. It is a deeply spiritual bond shaped by our past actions, unresolved karma, and lessons that we need to learn. By understanding the karmic nature of relationships, we can approach marriage with more awareness and insight. Whether we stay together or part ways, the true goal is to awaken to the truth of who we are and to grow beyond the attachments and illusions that bind us. Marriage as a mirror, understanding the deeper reflections in our relationships. Marriage is often regarded as a sacred union, a partnership built on love, trust, and companionship. For many, marriage is the ultimate goal in a relationship, seen as the culmination of romantic love and mutual understanding. But from a Buddhist perspective, marriage is much more than that. It is a spiritual journey, a profound mirror reflecting our inner world. A partner, in this light, becomes not just a companion but a reflection of our unresolved issues, unhealed wounds, and karmic patterns. What may seem like love at first sight could be an echo of deeper, unresolved karma waiting to be addressed. The mirror of marriage, what it reveals about us. At first glance, we might believe that we marry someone because of love and attraction, and while those feelings are certainly important, they are not the sole driving force in the union. According to Buddhist teachings, our relationships, including marriage, are deeply connected to our inner state. The person we choose to marry is often a mirror that reflects our unresolved issues, hidden fears, and unhealed emotional wounds. Marriage, in this context, becomes a spiritual tool for growth and transformation. Rather than simply completing us or providing companionship, our spouse can help reveal the aspects of ourselves that need attention and healing. These reflections often come in the form of emotional triggers, recurring conflicts, or unconscious patterns that surface within the relationship. In Buddhist thought, these triggers are not random, they are karmic echoes from the past that need to be understood and resolved. The role of karma in our relationships. Karma, in Buddhist philosophy, refers to the law of cause and effect. Every action, thought, and intention creates a ripple that influences our present and future experiences. In the context of marriage, karma plays a significant role in shaping the bond between two individuals. The person we marry is often someone we have a karmic connection with, either from this lifetime or from previous lives. This connection can manifest in various forms, sometimes as unfinished emotional business, unresolved conflicts, or even shared experiences from the past. What may initially feel like a perfect match or intense attraction could, in fact, be the manifestation of a deeper, unresolved issue. For example, someone may feel inexplicably drawn to their partner, only to later realize that the relationship brings up painful emotions or patterns that they have struggled with in the past. These unresolved karmic patterns are not accidents but are meant to help both partners grow and evolve spiritually. In Buddhism, relationships are seen as opportunities for healing. Rather than merely being about love or emotional fulfillment, marriage serves as a mirror that helps us confront the aspects of ourselves that we might otherwise ignore. These challenges often arise in the form of emotional triggers or conflicts within the relationship, but they are not meant to break us. They are designed to help us awaken to our true nature and transcend our past conditioning. Unhealed wounds and emotional patterns. One of the most powerful ways in which marriage serves as a mirror is by bringing to light our unhealed wounds. These wounds may stem from childhood experiences, past relationships, or unresolved emotional traumas. In many cases, we are not consciously aware of these wounds until they are triggered in the context of a close relationship, particularly marriage. For instance, consider the story of a man named David, who entered marriage with his partner, Laura. At first, their relationship was full of passion and excitement, but over time, David began to feel a sense of insecurity and fear of abandonment whenever Laura spent time with friends or family. His fears would manifest in the form of jealousy and possessiveness, which caused tension in the relationship. David eventually realized that his fears were rooted in childhood experiences where he felt abandoned by his mother. He had carried this unresolved trauma into adulthood, and his relationship with Laura became the perfect mirror to bring these issues to the surface. What initially seemed like a problem in their marriage was actually an opportunity for David to confront and heal his childhood wounds. Through mindfulness and therapy, David began to address his fears of abandonment and learn to trust more deeply. As he healed, his relationship with Laura improved, and he no longer felt triggered by her social interactions. In this case, Laura served as a mirror for David's unhealed emotional wounds, and their marriage became a catalyst for his personal growth. This story illustrates how marriage often acts as a mirror that reflects our deeper emotional patterns. We may not be fully conscious of these patterns until they surface within the context of our closest relationships. When we recognize these patterns, we can begin the work of healing and transformation, allowing our relationships to become spaces of growth rather than sources of conflict. Karma's role in repeating patterns. In karmic relationships, it is not uncommon to find ourselves repeatedly drawn to certain types of individuals, even if we are aware that these relationships cause us pain or suffering. This repetition occurs because of unresolved karmic patterns, emotional or psychological debts that must be paid. These patterns may repeat until we become conscious of them and make a conscious effort to break the cycle. Take, for example, the case of Maria, who found herself in a series of relationships with emotionally unavailable partners. Despite her best efforts to find love, she always seemed to attract partners who were distant or indifferent. After a painful breakup, Maria sought guidance from a spiritual teacher, who helped her understand that this pattern was not random. It was the result of unresolved karma from a past life. According to the teacher, in a previous lifetime, Maria had abandoned someone who loved her deeply. This karmic debt was now playing out in her present life, and until she recognized and healed this pattern, she would continue to attract partners who mirrored this emotional distance. Once Maria became aware of this karmic pattern, she began to work on healing her own fears of abandonment and learned to attract healthier, more fulfilling relationships. This story highlights how karma operates in relationships, often leading us to repeat certain patterns until we are able to break free from them. In a marriage, these karmic patterns can be particularly intense, as the close bond between partners amplifies the emotional dynamics at play. However, once we recognize these patterns and confront them with mindfulness, we can begin to heal and move forward in our relationships. The importance of awareness and healing in marriage. If we approach marriage with awareness, recognizing that our partners reflect our inner world, we can transform our relationships into powerful vehicles for spiritual growth. Rather than blaming our partners for the challenges we face, we can begin to see them as mirrors that show us what we need to heal within ourselves. This process of self-awareness and healing is not always easy. It requires us to confront our own shadows and unhealed wounds, which can be uncomfortable and painful. However, it is through this discomfort that we can experience true growth and transformation. Marriage, as a mirror, offers us the opportunity to break free from old patterns and emotional baggage, allowing us to evolve and become more whole. For example, consider the relationship of Priya and Rahul, who had been married for several years. Despite their love for each other, they found themselves constantly arguing over trivial matters. One day, during a particularly heated argument, Priya realized that her reactions were not about Rahul's behavior, they were about her unresolved anger toward her father, who had been emotionally distant throughout her childhood. Rahul, in this case, was serving as a mirror for Priya's unhealed emotional wounds. Once Priya recognized this, she was able to work on healing her anger and her attachment to past grievances. This awareness allowed her to approach her marriage with greater compassion and understanding. As a result, the frequency of their arguments decreased, and their bond grew stronger. Priya and Rahul's story illustrates how awareness and healing can transform a marriage. Rather than blaming each other for their frustrations, they took responsibility for their emotional patterns and worked together to create a more harmonious and loving relationship. The spiritual purpose of marriage. In Buddhism, marriage is seen not just as a social contract or a romantic partnership, but as a spiritual journey. Through marriage, we are given the opportunity to confront our deepest fears, unresolved wounds, and karmic patterns. Our partners are not just companions, they are spiritual mirrors that help us grow, evolve, and awaken to our true nature. When we approach marriage with this understanding, we can begin to see it as a path to spiritual awakening. The challenges we face in marriage are not obstacles to avoid. They are opportunities for us to heal, grow, and transcend the limitations of our past conditioning. By facing our shadows and working through our emotional wounds, we can transform our relationships into powerful tools for spiritual development. Conclusion: embracing the mirror. Marriage, when viewed as a mirror, provides us with a unique opportunity to explore and heal our inner world. Rather than seeing our partners as sources of happiness or frustration, we can recognize them as mirrors reflecting our deepest emotional patterns and unresolved karma. By approaching marriage with awareness and mindfulness, we can transform our relationships into vehicles for spiritual growth, allowing us to break free from old emotional patterns and heal our wounds. In the end, marriage is not just about love, it is about awakening to the truth of who we are. Through our partners, we are shown the areas of our lives that need healing, growth, and transformation. By embracing this mirror, we can create relationships that are not only fulfilling but also spiritually transformative, leading us to greater self-awareness, peace, and enlightenment. In the words of the Buddha, we are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. By shifting our perspective on marriage and relationships, we can begin to see them as powerful mirrors that guide us toward deeper self-awareness and spiritual awakening.